Hello everyone, in this tutorial we explain how to install Linux Ubuntu directly from a bootable USB stick. In particular, we explain how to install Linux Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. However, everything explained in this tutorial can be used for older or newer Linux distributions. We will install Linux Ubuntu 24.04 over an existing Linux Ubuntu distribution by completely erasing the existing Linux distribution. Furthermore, on our computer, we have previously installed dual boot option, such that at the computer restart or startup, we can select between Linux or Windows. That is, our case is probably more complex than the case of the most users who just want to install Linux on a clean system. Those users who want to install Linux on a clean system can also use our tutorial, and the installation procedure is even simpler. Here, before we start with the explanations, we need to mention that we are not responsible for any potential equipment or software damage that you might create by following this tutorial, or better to say, by following this tutorial and not understanding all the steps and creating some unpredictable actions. That is, it's very important that you understand what we are doing, and we are not responsible for potential data loss that can be caused by not understanding or not properly and safely applying the steps we explained. The procedure for installing Linux is: number one, first of all, we will have to download Rufus for creating bootable USB drives. We need to go to this link. Number two, then we'll have to download the Linux Ubuntu distribution from the official website that can be found on this link. Then step number three, we will create a bootable USB stick, and it is recommended that the USB stick is at least with a capacity of 16 GB. Then we will restart the computer and boot the computer from the USB stick. Then we will choose the correct destination for installing Linux Ubuntu and possibly creating some partitions. For example, if you have an SSD, and you can partition SSD such that Linux is shared with Windows, or you can separately install Linux on a different hard disk. And finally, we will install Linux Ubuntu. We will lead you through all these 6 steps. The step number 1 is to download and install Rufus. Rufus is a very powerful and simple to use program for creating bootable USB drives in the easy way. You will have only a single menu, and from this single menu you can create a bootable USB drive. So go to this link over here, scroll all the way down, find the download section, and download the correct Rufus version. In my case, this is the version. Download and install it. The installation procedure is pretty simple. Then, after performing this step, you need to download Ubuntu. To download Ubuntu, go to this web page. This is the official distribution website. Find the desktop version, then click over here, download Ubuntu desktop, and find the newest version. Or you can also find some older versions over here. In my case, it is Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. Here, LTS stands for the long-term support version. This is very important, which means 5 years of free security and maintenance updates extended to 10 years. So let's download it over here, and the download process will start. Then save it. I will save it in my download folder, click on save, and the download will start. Here is the downloaded file. Right click on the downloaded file, and let's see the size. The size is almost 6 GB. This means that you will need a USB stick that has the capacity of at least 6 GB or higher. In my case, I'm using a USB stick that has 16 GB. Consequently, my suggestion and recommendation is to purchase a USB stick that has at least 16 GB. Okay, the next step is to start Rufus. Click on Start, search for Rufus. Here it is. Yes, and over here, you need to insert your USB stick. After you insert your USB stick, you will see this thing. Okay, so this is our device. We are able to properly recognize device. Over here you need to do boot selection. So let's select the boot, keep it as it is, Click on Select and locate the downloaded file. Here it is. This is the downloaded Ubuntu ISO file. Click OK. OK. Now keep the standard options and click on Start. Select this default option, click OK, and here you need to be patient. This will take some time. After some time, you will see this screen ready. This means that the process is completed and you can safely close Rufus. Now, if you now remove the USB drive and if you connect it again to the system, you will see that it's actually Ubuntu 24.04 bootable drive. Okay, close. The next step is to restart the system. After restarting the system, if you cannot directly boot from this USB drive, this means that you need to adjust the settings in your BIOS, or you need to actually press a certain key on your keyboard to select a menu for booting. That is, the booting priority should be the USB drive. Often the booting priority is, for example, a hard disk or SSD on which the system is installed. However, we will need to change that. That is the next step, restart the system. Click here and restart the system. The next step is to boot from your USB stick. For that purpose, you need to plug in your USB stick to your computer, as I did it over here, and you need to restart your operating system. In my case, I have this menu. Since I have already installed Ubuntu 20.04 on my computer, and over here, once I restart my computer, I can select the operating system. That is, I have a dual boot. I have both Windows and Ubuntu running on my computer. In your case, you will have to restart the computer, and I will do it again to show you what will happen. Since I'm in Linux, I need to press Ctrl-Alt-Delete to restart my computer. Let's do that. Okay, after restarting the computer, that is after pressing Ctrl-Alt-Delete, I will again obtain this menu. Why is that? Well, although my USB stick is plugged in, as you can see over here, my BIOS and the complete system cannot boot from it. And this is the issue. Now, since I timed out, I will automatically start Ubuntu. And this is my previous version of Ubuntu, and I don't want to do that. So how to fix this problem? To fix this problem, while restarting or starting our computer, we have to make sure that we select the proper device to boot from. We have several options. We can boot from our HDD, STD, or in our case, we want to boot from USB stick. Every computer manufacturer provides a BIOS with the computer. In BIOS, you can adjust the priority of booting. That is, you can adjust and say, okay, I want first to try to boot from my USB stick, and then I want to try, if for example, if the USB stick is not plugged in, then I will proceed to the next step. That is, I will boot from my SDD or HDD. And this is what we need to adjust. Since I'm using a Dell machine, in Dell machine, it's very easy. I just need to press F12 while restarting the system, and then I will have a menu, and in that menu I can choose the boot priority. And actually I can directly say to my operating system, to my BIOS or to my computer that I want to boot from my USB. That is, I need to press F12. If you're not using Dell machine, or if you're maybe using Dell machine which is newer or older, this might not be the case. So you need to investigate. The best thing to do is actually to open the general BIOS. In my case, this is done by restarting the computer and pressing F2. And from there, you can select the boot priority. However, I will use the shortcut That is, I will use F12 on my Dell machine. So let's do that. Now I restarted my system, and while the system is restarting, I'm pressing F12 on my keyboard. And after some time, I will see this menu. This is the menu we want. We can use this menu to select the boot device. We have several options. The first option is Ubuntu, then we have several other options, then we have Windows, and here is the option that we want to select. The manufacturer of my USB stick is SanDisk, and consequently I will select this option in order to boot from my USB. And I will press enter. And let's go from here. Now over here you will have this menu. This means that we have successfully booted from our USB stick, and let's select the option. We will select the first option, try or install Ubuntu. And over here you need to be patient. This will take some time. Currently what is happening behind the scene, the operating system is being loaded, and here you go. You can see already Ubuntu 24.04. And over here you need to wait maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute, and you will see the main window of our Ubuntu. After some time you will also see the mouse cursor, because all the hardware drivers are being loaded in memory. So just be patient over here. And here it is. Okay, now here you have to be patient. You can see preparing Ubuntu, and we will go from here. Next, let's select our language. I will select English and I will click on next. Then let's click on next. Over here, let's select English and let's connect to our Wi-Fi network. I always strongly suggest you to connect to the Wi-Fi network. So click over here. In my case, this is the Wi-Fi network. I click connect, and over here I need to enter my password. And click on connect after entering the password, and this will take some time for the system to recognize our network. So you have to be patient. Okay, so let's see what's happening. This will take some time. And after that, click on next. Let's skip this step for the time being. And what do we want? We want to install Ubuntu. Click on next. Let's select interactive installation. And over here we have two options. Let's choose the default selection. Let's select both of these options. Click on next. Here you have to be patient. Okay, now here we have several options. Since we already have operating systems installed on our computer, we have an option to install Ubuntu alongside them. And then we can choose your operating system during boot. We have this option. Then we have erase disk and install Ubuntu. This is if you want to completely erase everything from your computer and install Ubuntu. And over here I have manual installation. Now, in my case, I will select manual installation. This is because I have already installed Windows and another version of Ubuntu, and I want to adjust the settings. That is, I want to install my new version of Ubuntu over the existing version of Ubuntu. So that's why I will select this option. However, depending on what you want to do, you might consider this option or this option. If you select this option, erase disk and install Ubuntu, you will erase everything on your hard disk, and before doing that you need to back up your disk. Click on next. Okay, and over here you can see my hard disks, SSD, and all the drives. Now here you have to be very careful. You will probably not see something like this since you have a different computer configuration. However, this is a very important screen, and I will explain what's happening over here. Okay, so what's happening over here? In my case, I have two SDD disks. They are SDA and SDB. One has 1 TB capacity and another one has 500 GB capacity. Now, in addition to these two drives, I also have one HDD that you can see over here, and it has a capacity of 1 TB. Okay, so where do I want to install my Linux? Now, you can see that over here on this SDDB drive that has a capacity of 500 GB, I have already installed Ubuntu 20.04.6 LTS. So I want to kind of rewrite this version, right? This is very important. At the same time, you can see Windows Boot Manager can also boot from this hard disk. However, this is not hard disk, SDD. However, this is not important. Why? Because I'm also booting my Windows from here. And even if I erase completely everything on this SDD, I will be able still to boot on my system. This is very important. Do not play with these options if you don't understand perfectly what's happening over here. Over here in the corner, I have an option for device for bootloader installation. So I will click over here and I will select my WDC or Western Digital drive. That is the drive over here to be the boot drive for my Linux distribution. So I will select over here and then I will click New Partition Table. And this is very important to read. Be careful what you're doing here. Creating a new partition table on the entire device will remove all of its current partitions. And this is very important to keep in mind. Click on OK. After pressing OK, you can see that everything is erased on this SDD and we have complete free space. Of course, we still didn't actually erase everything since we didn't click on Next. That is, this partitioning is reversible. You can simply go back. Okay, now what to do from here? Over here, select again this option over here, and then here you can see that automatically you have SDB1, and this is Windows Boot Manager, and over here we will actually add our Linux. So click over here and click on plus. And over here, you can select the size of the partition. Let's keep this partition to be as large as possible. Use as ext4, and the mount point should be actually this one. And click OK. Now you have this thing. And now we can click on Next. And here you need to create your account. You can give your name. I will specify my name. However, you can specify your own name, username, required password to log in. If you are using the password, you can specify the password. I will use my standard password, which you cannot see over here. And I will not press show, of course. Okay, and let's click on Next. You can select your time zone, click on Next, and let's click on Install. However, here you have to be very careful what's happening. This is very important. You can see that we have partitions SDB1 as FAT32 used for boot EFI and partition formatted used for this thing. And so let's click on Install. Okay, now you have to be patient. We are currently copying files and this will take some time depending on how fast is your USB device, how fast is your computer, and since we are installing the newest version of Ubuntu, this might take quite some time. After approximately 5 or 10 minutes, we obtain this window, and this means that Ubuntu 24.04 is installed and ready to use. Let's restart now by clicking over here. Now, over here, we have to be patient. And you can see that we have the message, please remove the installation medium, then press enter. So I will remove my USB stick and let's press enter and let's see what will happen. Okay, so let's see. Okay, and again, good. We have Ubuntu, then we have advanced options for Ubuntu, then we have Windows, since I already have Windows, and let's select Ubuntu. And let's see what will happen. Okay, so let's be patient, since this is the first start of our Ubuntu. So far looks good. Good, good, good. Let's see what happens now. Okay, so I will click on my username, then I will enter my password, which you cannot see. Oops, I made an error since I'm typing with one hand. And let's see. Now let's be patient. And here it is. Welcome to Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. You can see, for example, this thing, click on next. Skip for now since you don't want to have Ubuntu Pro. Next. Basically, I don't select this option. Next. And finish. And that's it. This is our Ubuntu. We can click over here to show everything. So let's start terminal for fun to see will terminal work properly. Okay, here's our terminal and let's see where we are. Okay, we are in the home folder. We can do LSL to see everything. Perfect. Let's go to the root. Okay, here's the root. Let's see what's in the root. Okay, here we have to be careful what we are typing, and here it is. Perfect. Okay, that's all for today.